Hello, I'd like to welcome all of you screwheads and retards to my latest show. And this is a channel where we take news from the day and we add some biblical principles to it. And I'm your host. So let's get underway. The first story I want to talk about is AOC. She's this retarded princess who works as a congressman in a district in New York. And if you go to her district, it's a disaster. It's filled with trash. You might get your head bashed in while someone steals your wallet. It's a real dystopian nightmare, this district that she runs. Anyway, AOC was saying that the Palestinians had a just cause to go into Israel on October 7th and, burn babies alive and behead women and take hostages. And it was really our fault that America's behind it. And she blamed Donald Trump. She said, well, the Abraham Accords, the Golan Heights, and what was the other one? The Abraham Accords, the Golan Heights, and Jerusalem being made the capital of Israel. All of these conditions gave them the right to come in and commit atrocious acts of murder. And that Israel would just have to accept it. And that they're a bunch of barbarians, the Israelites, they're barbarians, and they pretty much deserve what they get. I mean, really shocking stuff in my opinion. But I noticed that in today's day and age, there's a ton of Jew hatred. A lot of people thoroughly and utterly hate the Jews. I'm going to tell you this. You do it at your own risk. And this is where the Bible comes in. What did God say to Abraham? I'm going to make you a nation. And whoever blesses you, I will bless. And whoever curses you, I will curse. So you better be careful who you're cursing. And that's from the Word of God. I would stay away from that. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And there's no way I would ever say anything against Israel. I wouldn't do it. I certainly wouldn't be a Jew hater. Now, let's not take it to extremes. I mean, if they were doing something like if they were making fentanyl in labs and shipping it to Mexico and bringing it over the border, I'd say, okay, that's too much. Or if they were putting bombs on commercial airlines and committing acts of terrorism, yeah, you get it. But I just wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Like God said, I bless those who bless you and I curse those who curse you. And I don't want that hanging over my head. Now, with that said, I believe that Israel has a right to root out Hamas. And you can't blame this current disaster all on Netanyahu and the troops. Egypt could have let them in. Let the refugees in. They refused to do it. All right? So, these are their Muslim brothers who say, nah, you sit there. And Hamas uses them as human shields. I'm going to tell you something else that's really wild. There are more than 40 American hostages that Hamas has. Nobody says a word about them. When I was a boy growing up, we had the Iranian hostage crisis. We had a president named Jimmy Carter, and he was a disaster. He was a real peanut head. People call him a peanut head because he owned peanut farms or something like that. Anyway, we used to call him President Peanut Head. Everything he touched just turned to you know what. All right? He had the reverse Midas touch. And every day I'd look on the news. We only had 3 channels back then, We didn't have cable. You had ABC, NBC, or CBS. We watched CBS, which was Walter Cronkite. And, Walter would get on there and say, this is day 36 of the hostage crisis. Then we go to bed, wake up the next day. This is day 37 of the hostage crisis. We were all concerned about the hostages because even though President Peanut Head was an imbecile, he still liked Americans, unlike the politicians, American politicians today, who completely despise us, right? And notice how they never bring it up. And I want to say something else to the Jew haters, because I get this a lot. I hear this. They're not the real Jews. They're not Middle Eastern, blah, 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 blah. They're not originally from the Middle East. Well, listen, your ignorance is getting ahead of you. In 721 BC, I say BC, I don't say BCE. That's how much the world hates Jesus Christ, that they actually changed it to BCE. In 721 BCE, the Assyrians conquered Israel, the northern kingdom, dragged them all away into slavery. Of course, they're going to intermingle. And then in 586 BC, Nebuchadnezzar came and dragged away the people from the southern kingdom. And of course they're going to intermingle. Even when you look at the bloodline of Jesus Christ, let's look at some of the people. Tamar was a Canaanite. Rahab was a Canaanite. Ruth was a Moabite. Bathsheba, she married a Hittite, so she's officially a Hittite. So even Jesus doesn't have these pure bloodlines that these anti-Semitic people keep harping about. You know, and let me say one other thing about this. When you get a guy like Hitler, and you get the Holocaust deniers, I want to tell you some of the stuff Hitler said right now about Judaism. He said, they did two things to us. They scarred our bodies with circumcision, and they scarred our minds by giving us a conscience. That's Hitler. There was also a Hitler Youth song saying, we don't need Jesus Christ. These are the actual words. Hitler is our savior, and we're going to live like pagans. This is an actual song for Hitler Youth. We're going to live like pagans. You know, so be careful. Be careful when you start with your Jew hatred. You're messing with stuff. Maybe you need to pick up a Bible and start reading. I bless those who bless you. I curse those who curse you. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. But I do say this. AOC and her ilk are pagans. Be careful who you follow. She's a pagan. The next thing on the agenda is this whole Gay Pride Month. And let me tell you something. I'm not anti-homosexual. You know, you're free to go enjoy yourself, whatever. Just leave me out of it. But I don't know why these guys just can't have one day. The veterans only get one day. They got to have 30 days to celebrate their sodomy. Sodomy is that wonderful that you need a full 30 days? Right? It's insane. And again, why is this? It begins with a P. Paganism. Let's call it the new paganism. Although paganism has been around since man was on earth, right? And I'm going to tell you, when you have an admiral in the Navy like this Rachel Levine with his fright wig and just this bizarre looking individual, and you have one of your ships named the USS Harvey Milk, you're not going to be taken seriously. I lived in China for 2.5 years, almost 3 years. Before I was there, and then COVID came. I got out. I was like, I don't want to deal with COVID with the CCP. I don't want to get locked in my apartment, or, you know, that's the last thing I wanted. So I got out. And I'll tell you this, they're for real. You go to places like Beijing, Shanghai, Chongqing, all these towns, Shenyang. These are glistening, beautiful cities. I don't want you guys to have the impression that these are run-down little pieces of you-know-what. These are glistening, beautiful cities. There's a lot of money being made over there, and there's 1 billion of them, and they're ramping up their military. and they're about to take Taiwan. They already took Hong Kong back. So this idea that they're going to respect us when one of our admirals wears a dress and one of our ships is named after this Harvey Milk, and you can look into him and find out some of the wild things. I mean, when you got teenagers hanging themselves on your back porch, you know what I mean? There's some stuff there. And I'm running at 10 minutes, but maybe I'll go a little longer. I'm sure most people don't want to hear me ramble on, but maybe I'll go 15 because I want to move to the next topic, and that is Caitlin Clark. She's a basketball player who plays for the WNBA, and quite frankly, none of it interests me because I think it's a load of, you know what? Who wants to watch a bunch of women playing basketball? The idea to me is crazy, you know? Anyway, some people like it, and God bless them. They got a right to like it. But I noticed she's catching a lot of heat from the black players who are saying that, who seem to hate her just because she's a white girl. And she got some terrible fouls yesterday by these angry black women. I graduated from a school that was the majority of the kids were black. This was way back in the 80s. And I'm going to tell you, I always had this feeling that they utterly hated me because I was a white kid. You know? I would get threatened and all kinds of stuff. And for what? Because the color of my skin, you know? I can't control how I was born. I have no control over this. You know, and, you know, I would constantly, you know, you'd always have to worry. Am I going to get jumped in the hallway? If I go to the bathroom, am I going to get my butt kicked? The day I graduated, I thanked the Lord. Oh, thank you. Get out of here now. Let me tell you. And I'm just going to say this, that maybe they have a right to hate us. I don't know. Maybe they do. You got that whole slavery thing, yada yada. I get it. In a way, I get it. But I had nothing to do with that. I didn't drag anyone's ancestors over from Africa and make them work in my plantation. I'm so poor I don't even own a car. I go to work on a bus. You know, and I'm thankful that I get a roof over my head and I have some bread to eat. You know, I'm not some rich guy who's out to hold down anybody. You know, stop making war against us. You know, this Caitlin Clark, if she said something to you or called you a name or whatever, then give her an elbow. Sure, I get it. But if you're roughing her up and just because she's a white girl, that's not right. You know, get that through your head. It's not right. Not that they'll ever see this video, but in case, you know, something happens, it's ungodly. Right? You're not supposed to hate your brother. You're not supposed to hate your brothers or sisters because of their color of their skin and whatnot. It's just wrong. It goes against what Jesus is saying. What Jesus said, you know, he would be against it, so I'm against it. Anyway, I'm at close to 14 minutes, and I don't want to, you know, like I said, who the heck wants to watch this? Anyway, I'll talk to you later. God bless. Bye-bye.